How are you? Good, Baruch Hashem, very good. So let's start. So yesterday we were discussing, benefiting from Avodah Zarah and so on and so forth. Now we're going to discuss over here. We're going to continue what we said yesterday. Right, meaning to say if you're buying things, whether it's at a carnival or you're buying anything that's supporting anything to do with Avodah Zarah, so if the money is not directly going for the Avodah Zarah, and it's not directly going for the priests that are beautifying the Avodah Zarah, not for the whole purpose of the Avodah Zarah, it's just going to the people that work there, then it would be permissible to buy from these type of places or to give money to these type of places for your own benefit, purchase and so on. Or the kupad, okay. Or if you know that
If you have a worker who you know that he does Avodah Zarah.
That's okay.
But is there a problem if he does that in your store or in your business?
Is there a problem for him to do Avodah Zarah in your store, in your business? I'm not sure if there's an Isser for him to do, and for him to bow down to a Buddha in your store, in your office. I'm not sure. And I've never saw that there is such an Isser. I know that you're not allowed to have Avodah Zarah in your premises. There's an Isser for you to have Avodah Zarah in your property. Right. But if it's not yours, and he brings it in with him, and he serves it, and then he leaves, would such a thing be Asur? I'm not sure. I don't think so. Simply wouldn't seem to be asur if you just bring it into your property and use it on your property. You're not allowed to have Avodah Zarah on your property, but here it's really coming with him. I'm not sure. I'll think about it, I'll let you know. Right? Now, even though you know that you're buying something, you're renting something, and the money is going to the government or whatever it might be, and they support all these different causes of Avodah Zarah and so on and so forth, it would also be permissible. Right, because it's not direct. You're just giving it to them and they're doing whatever they want from it. Now, if you know that what do those people who call the komarim? How do you say komar in English? The pastor, the priest, right? If you know the priest or anybody that's like a head of an Avodah Zarah group, right? Say in India, whatever it might be, head of Avodah Zarah group, that they have a store and they own a store, right? And it's from their own personal money, and you're buying things from them and you're supporting them by giving them money, that's also okay, because the money you're giving them is to their own personal use. It's not like they're going out and building Avodah. It's not like the money is designated for Avodah Zarah, right? If the money would be designated, for example, there's a store, anything you buy in the store, the money go directly to build Avodah Zarah, directly to build everything to do with Avodah Zarah, then it would be also to support such a store, it would be also to buy over there. Right? It's also to take loans and interest from in a house of idol worship. Why? Because when you're paying them back interest every single month, you're giving them more and more credit, more and more money, you're making them bigger and greater. Therefore, if you know that you could get a loan from a church or any house of Avodah Zarah, the reason why I use church as the most, prime example all the time, is because it's the most prominent Avodah Zarah idol worship that we have today in Halacha. Right? I don't know everybody else. I don't know how many religions are there around here that are so big. But the same thing would apply to any sort of religion that is idol worship in halacha. It would be asur to take a loan for them on interest, because by doing that you're paying them interest every single month and you're making them much wealthier, and that would be asur. Yes.
In St. John's they have this
carnival. They asked me about that yesterday. Halachically it's not a problem, but ashkafically I don't know if you should go.
I think that when I saw that this one that goes supports usually the churches.
They're just renting the space from St. John's, though.
They have the same thing next to my house, goes to treat as a church.
So the money, when the money is supporting the churches, what in the churches does it support? It's probably to pay the workers and to stuff like that. If it's not directly going to the Avodah Zarah, we said yesterday, if it's money is not directly going to the Avodah Zarah, it's not a problem. And unless you mamash directly, then it would be okay. It's fine. He said it's fine, right? Shem Avodah Zarah Asur B'Hana'ah Ken Demen Asur. Shibachar Avodah Zarah Asur. Just like Avodah Zarah is Asur B'Hana'ah, so to the money is Asur B'Avodah Zarah B'Hana'ah. For example, if somebody found Avodah Zarah, say you went traveling somewhere and you found some sort of a statue. The statue is some sort of a whatever, it's something that they worship, something valuable, and now you want to sell it. You see online that it's worth $3,000, $4,000. Right? You want to sell it, you're not allowed to. And if you sell it, that money is Asur B'Hana'ah just like the actual statue. Can't benefit from it. The money of the Avodah Zarah taps into the money, no matter how far you go.
Same thing.
No, we said yesterday.
like a cross
We said yesterday that there's a difference because any cross that's made yesterday, any cross that was made for jewelry, that was made just for a jewelry purpose, it wasn't served, it doesn't have that status of Avodah Zarah. But if it was, okay, you're right, if it would be a cross that was served, and you would want to sell it even as a jewelry, that would be a problem.
What if you're selling it? You build one as a jeweler.
That's okay, you could sell it.
And then the guy you're selling it to, you know he's gonna go over the door and
Of course,
bow
they go
down
like this,
and all
they
that stuff.
pray to
But then
God.
you're not allowed to sell to him. You're not allowed to sell something that somebody's going to use for Avodah Zarah.
He said, I want a specific kind of diamond, specific kind of...
But how do you know he's going to serve it?
Yeah,
don't ask.
How is he
I'm
going
saying,
to?
if you know that he's gonna serve it, like,
How is he going to serve it? What do you mean he's going to serve it?
I'm just giving you
You're not allowed to sell to him. You're not allowed to sell Avodah Zarah. No, you can't. That's the same thing like selling Avodah Zarah. You can't sell Avodah Zarah. You're making an Avodah Zarah for him. That for sure you're not allowed. If they know it's just jewelry, using it as a retachshir, there the Ramah is matter. Even so, the Rashba over there is machmir. They are posting that aser even by crosses. I'll tell you one time about 9 years ago, I was sitting and I was learning. So I had a friend of mine who used to do used to be involved in like glasses. So we decided that like maybe a little bit. And he said, I told him let's maybe manufacture glasses and we'll sell them. So we manufactured like 9 or 10 different types of frames. And one of the frames that we made had like a resemblance of a cross on the side. The fi halacha, I realized afterwards, the fi halacha, it wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be an issue. But I remember when I went to Rav Belsky, looked at it, he said, this one don't make. This one don't manufacture. So even though halachically it would be okay, but he didn't want me to do it because it's not the proper thing to do. Even though it might not be halachically. There's halacha and there's how you should behave, what you should do. Right? Not everything that's mutter you should be doing, even though it's b'etzem mutter. Right? So Rebelsky told me that don't do this one. Right? But jewelry in of itself, for sure, if a person would want to be machmer, there would be room to be machmer, especially if you know that they're gonna, I don't know, bow to it, kiss it, pray to it. These type of things become much more chomer, much worse. I don't know how many do that, but if you know they do that, then you're not allowed to. For example, if you know that a customer came in and he has a nice big piece, right? And you know he always kisses it and prays to it, right? He picks it up, he prays to it, he kisses it, right? And he puts his head down to it, he bows to it. You can't buy that cross.
But you're buying
I
it to
don't think
destroy
they'll do
it.
that. What?
You're buying it to take out the diamond to destroy it or to melt it or whatever it is. You're not really...
That's a good point. What if you're buying it to melt it?
So the goy himself needs to melt it or destroy it himself first. You could, if he wants to sell it to you, you could tell him, go first, melt it into gold and bring it to me in a gold piece. That's okay. A goy could be mevatel his avodah zarah. You can't be mevatel his avodah zarah. If he's mevatel his own avodah zarah, then he could sell it to you, right? But you cannot buy it if he did not mevatel it. Why? Because it's an avodah zarah in of itself. That only helps for the avodah zarah in of itself. But a sacrifice brought to avodah zarah, that's worse. That
What
you
if
can
you buy it
never.
and just hit it with a hammer and like...
You can't. He could. He needs to be mevatel it.
He's not gonna do that.
He will. If he's selling it to you, why is he selling it to you? How much does he want? $5,000? It's worth $5,000 to you? Tell him, go get it melted into gold, bring it to me as a solid piece of gold and I'll buy it from you.
Whoever he brings it to, they're gonna buy.
You're gonna lose the deal.
So lose the deal. It's not a deal. It's not in your realm of deals. Right? Just like if somebody wants to bring you anything else, that's also, it's not in your choice of buying. It's not something you could buy. Right? It's like saying if I don't go to work on Shabbat, I'm going to lose the deal. It's also to work on Shabbat. It's the same thing. It's also to buy Avodah Zarah. Tell them to go somewhere else. Find yourself another customer. Right? The more a person overcomes his tests of serving Hashem in his financial areas, the more Hashem will eventually bless such a person in his financial areas. Right? if you know that a person that buys and sells avodah zarah, for example, if a person sells mamash avodah zarah, he sells all these different idols that people bow to and so forth and so forth, you're not allowed to buy anything from that store.
What if you own like an antique store?
Yeah.
They buy all kinds of statues, old jewelry pieces, and then they resell it. You're not allowed?
So you cannot if you know that it's an avodah zarah. But if you go into such a store and there's just a big store with 500 different types of items, and a part of those items they have those type of items, you're allowed to buy them. I'm talking about a store that's like designated for avodah zarah, even though he has some other things there also. You shouldn't do business in such a store, right? You shouldn't do business in such a store. This is talking about like more of a Jewish store. But if a Jewish person owns such a store, you shouldn't do business with such a person. If it's a non-Jewish store, it would be a little bit more. It would be more meko.
The Persians are this our business.
Avodah zarah they sell?
No, they sell antiques.
Yeah, antiques. Yeah, a lot of people sell antiques. People still sell antiques. People still sell. People still buy antiques.
Online.
I didn't know that there would be still a market for antiques in such a modern world.
Of course, it's the man.
Wow.
What about money? Like they resemble sometimes money to the avodah zarah. So
They want to resemble money to avodah zarah, meaning to say that people are so hooked on it that they prefer money more than God. That's what they mean by avodah zarah. Meaning to say, they say that money became such an addiction to people that it became the center of a person's life. Just like avodah zarah was like a center of a person's life, everything revolved around it. Right? So it's the same type of an idea. Because the reality is, money is important. It's it contributes to many things in life that's important. As important as it is, there's other things that's in life that's important too, right? Your family, your friends, your kids, your spirituality, everything is important, right? So, but when you give 95% of importance to money and 5% importance to everything else, that becomes like the avodah zarah. It becomes like your idol, in a way. That a person loses focus and he becomes prey to money. His whole life it revolves around that. That's some sort of form of it. I can't tell you that he's over and of Isra of avodah zarah, because it's not like it's not like he does anything towards avodah zarah. It's a tava. It's a tava. No, but that's true. The Shulchan Aruch says that a person should. The halacha says a person should work, but a person should work. His Torah and his spirituality should be keva. His spiritual focus in life and his purpose in life should be the main focus in his growth, and his parnasa should be secondary. And the Shulchan Aruch says such a person will have blessing in both. He'll end up keeping both. I know somebody like that. I know it feels like that his whole life, and I know somebody like that next to me. He sits and he learns every day from the morning until like 3 o'clock, and then he goes out to work, and he's very successful.
what if you work 24/7, but your intent of making the money is to support people or to
That's for sure better than somebody just working for himself and being selfish. But it still doesn't mean that a person is patur from serving Hashem. A person still has an obligation to serve Hashem. No, absolutely not. A person's money won't save him from all those other obligations. A person has an obligation to daven, to learn himself, to learn, to grow, to spend time with his family, to raise his children. I was on the way here, I was just listening to a shir by Rav Yaakov Daniarov. He was speaking about how in the previous generations people had so much mesirut nefesh for their children. He says he remembers that even his grandfather, in Israel, they were offering him, and it was very hard in Israel financially, then they were poor, and they were offering him to become a Rav of Sharei Tzion here in Brooklyn, a very rich Syrian community. And he said no, why? He didn't want to raise his kids here. He cared about his chinuch for his children. And he said that he remembers even before, there was a family that lived in America, but they didn't have the quality of yeshivot. It was very hard to raise children here to be Talmidei Chachamim. So his mother took his son and she sent him to Yeshiva of Hebron. This is a long time ago when in Israel, there was a lot of Arabs and there was massacres there all the time. And even when her son learned in Yeshiva of Hebron, there was an Arab massacre in the Yeshiva. Her son didn't end up dying, Baruch Hashem. But still, he was speaking about the tremendous sacrifice that people had to make sure that the children are going to grow up to be Bnei Torah and Talmidei Chachamim. Right? Needless to say, people need to pay attention to their children. Right? To make sure the children are doing the right things and are with the right people and being exposed to the right things and not being exposed to the wrong things. Right? That's also very important. Your children are your future investment. Right? The most biggest future investment is your children more than anything else. Why? Because at the end of the day, your chinuch is dependent on you and your parnas is dependent on Hashem. Right? Your parnas at the end of the day is if it's decreed on you to make that amount of money, it's going to come to you no matter what. Whether you work 8 hours or 10 hours, right? Or 7 hours. If a person really believes and he has bitachon in Hashem, it'll come to a person either or. and a person could be focusing on other things in life, right? That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. A person needs to focus on his spirituality. A person needs to learn every day. A person needs to daven every day. A person needs to, even throughout the workday, a person can become a tzaddik throughout the workday, being honest, not lying, not cheating, right? Learning whenever you have free time, doing chesed, being nice to people, right? There's a lot of things, the righteous things that you could be doing throughout the day at work. Also, there's no avera to work. You're allowed to work, right? Even back in the day, all the chachamim used to work. The Orach Chaim used to work. A lot of chachamim used to work. Why? There's nothing wrong with working if you know how to keep a proper balance between working and learning. But you also have to be careful to put yourself in the right environment. It's also for a Jew to build a house of Avodah Zarah, right? A church, right? You want to build a church, you're not allowed to build a church. If they hire you as a contractor to build a church, not allowed. There are matirim to build all the way, but not all the way. We need to say to build it only to the point of where you get to the place where they're actually going to put the Avodah Zarah. That place you're not allowed to build. Everything till that place you're allowed to build. There are opinions like that, but the proper way is not to build it at all, not to be involved in building the house of Avodah Zarah whatsoever. Right, and whatsoever.
Are you allowed to buy a former church and convert it into a residential building?
You're gonna destroy it?
No. Convert it.
How are you gonna convert it?
Convert it. There's churches that are like, 2-3 story buildings that are attached. Like a lot of them are in Brooklyn.
If you're gonna destroy the inside.
Inside, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay, good, yeah. Right? If they hire you to come and to fix the floors in front of the Avodah Zarah, or to do the windows and stuff like that, even though there's a machloket poskim, the Taz is very machmir also. Don't do it. Don't come and beautify anything that you're fixing for a church, or for any form of Avodah Zarah. What about if a Jew didn't know, and he was a contractor, and he went and he built a big house for Avodah Zarah? He went and he ended up building the church, or ended up building the statue, or ended up building whatever it might be. Are you allowed to have enjoyment from the money? He says you're allowed to. Mikra din, you're allowed to. Also, say if you're an engineer, and they wanted you to plan out the whole entire thing, building of the engineering of the actual thing, Mikra din, it's also mutar. It's proper not to do it, but Mikra din is mutar. It's not a story, because it's not physically building it. You're just sort of giving a plan layout that might be making it easier, but they could find somebody without you anyways. But halachically, even though it's mutar, preferably not. Right? Don't get involved. Because at the end of the day, these people are idol worshipping, they're going anti-Torah. They walk on, I don't know if you guys have this in Queens, but they walk by my house, they go on our block, they knock on the doors, they try to, right, these missionaries, right, and tell them go get a job, what are they walking around for, right? This is the Mamash Avodah Zarah, the idol worshippers and halacha lagamri. And this is completely anti what the will of Hashem wants. Hashem, you don't want to help them in what they're doing. What about if you're a mortgage broker? You're not a mortgage broker, you're a loan, right? You give your own loans and then you sell it, and now you have a $5 million church project. They want to come take a loan from you. Not allowed.
Not allowed.
If you know that they're planning to use this money to build a house of idol worship, you're not allowed. Right? Or any idol worshippers, say if you have some Hinduans from Hindu or something.
Use a mortgage?
No. If you know they're going to use it for Avodah Zarah, you can't give them mortgage. Yeah.
You can't loan them the money?
No.
So if a guy comes to you, he's willing to borrow from you on a high percentage, or goy, and he wants to build a church for that money, you're not allowed to lend to him. Oh, well.
Yeah.
You're in a sense being like a nefesh, no?
What?
Aren't you like in a sense being like inviting into him, like neshef?
No, you're helping him build the house of Avodah
You're
Zarah.
hurting him by giving him that, no?
Not necessarily. They're very wealthy. They're not going to feel it. The amount of funds that they get in fundraising that they get, they don't really care. You think you're taking a bite out of him, but you're really not. He's really making all the money on you. But that's only talking about when you're actually lending somebody personal on a personal level for his own personal expenses. That's okay. Then you have a mitzvah. But if you know that the money is being designated to build places of idol worship, you're not allowed to lend it to them. Right?
Even though you school,
Mitzvah to lend him on interest.
To good.
on interest.
With interest.
Avira without interest. Right.
One second.
But for example, they buying and they say to you, no, we just don't want to live here. And if they change mind and they build it up church.
That's their problem. It's not a
There's
problem.
no problem.
Yeah. It's just,
But if you know exactly they're going to build the ritual.
then you're not allowed. Then you're not allowed. Yeah. You understand?
You're a broker. Broker the deal?
You could broker the deal. If you're brokering it between, say, a non-Jewish bank and a Jewish bank, you could broker the deal. Because without you, they could do it anyways.
Are you allowed to finance them? Like, let's say you're merchant cash advance and you have a business that operates
It's the same thing.
the same.
Well, over there might even be worse because there you're taking a part of the business. That's how making a revenue. Not mamish like it's not like you're lending them. You're taking a part of their business, a share in their business. It's gonna be even worse. Right? That's the whole way of how it works, right? You take a share in their business. Otherwise, you won't be able to make money. Mutar
They
maker.
buy car from you and they're using for the church. Also, you're not allowed to sell them.
No, that's okay.
It's okay. No?
Yeah, that's fine. Even if you, so what happens is car dealers, they buy cars from churches. Right, so the same question that we said earlier. If you know that car dealers, I didn't know. One time, like 15 years ago, I was a bacher in yeshiva. I wanted to buy a car. I went to a mechanic, right? And I wanted to buy a car. He sold me the car. After he sold me the car, and we're already signing the paperwork, I see over there it says that he got the car from a church. Right? People donate money to churches, and churches sell it, and they take it and they sell it for cheap. Why? Because it's full profit. They don't really care. They didn't work for the money, right? So api halacha, the church is allowed to take the cars and sell them because they're using it. It could be for funding, the bills, the electricity, the workers, and so on and so forth. It's not for the actual avodah zarah itself. If you know that it's for the actual avodah zarah itself, it's a problem.
What if you don't know? You're unsure.
Yeah, then you could assume that it's for everything else. You could assume because there's 500 different things you could go for. It's not like a situation. It's either this or either that. It's like they have so many expenses. You don't have to be so concerned. Generally, not unless it's a specific like fundraiser for it. Mutar meikar din levnod misgad. You're allowed to build a what is this called? Where a mosque. You're allowed to build a mosque where Muslims pray because they believe in one God. Right? It's not considered idol worship. They believe in one God. And therefore it's not idol worship. They believe in one God, we believe in one God. You're allowed to help them build their mosques, even though api halacha they're considered kofrim.
So you can lend money to halal food.
Yes. Even though they're considered kofrim and apikorsim because they denied the Torah. They're saying that Moshe Rabbeinu was overridden and this Muhammad came afterwards and he's the real prophet and so on and so forth. Whatever else nonsense they say, but whatever it might be. That's what it is. You're allowed to lend them the money to build it. Not only that, you're allowed to even build it yourself. If you have a Jewish contractor and you're being hired to build a mosque, you're allowed to build it. It's not a problem. Back in the day, I think they used to split times between Jews and non-Jews, right? I think they told me in Samarkand or Uzbekistan,
No, I heard a lot of countries.
they used to split, right? The Arabs used to daven there at one time and then the Jews used to daven there another time. They finished davening in the same place. That you like you would have the Arabs finish praying and then the Jews are coming for shaharit afterwards, like they would share it like that, right? They would be davening mincha, they would be davening. No? This is what I heard. But api halacha would be mutar anyways. Api halacha would be mutar anyways because they believe in one God. Right, I know. Kenesyan, right, if you have a church, you're not allowed to turn it into a shul. Right? You're not allowed to turn it into a shul.
The Machpelah, I think we're 3 days we have and the rest out of the people there.
Yeah.
In the same place.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to turn to shul?
Api halacha, really you shouldn't do it. Our
Shul
material.
in Miami that used to be a church that got turned into a reform shul and now it's an Orthodox shul.
Rambam.
Rambam shul.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Happened to be that I davened there one
And the
time.
landlord is actually a frum Jew, rabbi from here, from New York,
Happened to be I davened there one time.
Where is that?
behind Trump.
There was a reform at one point also.
Oh really? It looks like an interesting place.
It is. If you pay attention to the end of the thing, it's like a church, like a cross on it.
It looked like an interesting place.
But they're breaking the
No, I
place
think
down.
I went to pray there. There was supposed to be mincha there. They didn't have mincha. I ended up going to Chabad. There's a Chabad not too far away. Right. So that's what happened. I remember I left. There was no minyan, and then I ended up going to Chabad instead. Right. whatever it might be. But also in Borough Park, they had a Yemenite shul. They bought a church and they turned it into a shul. Now some Hasidic guy broke it, a developer. He broke the whole thing down. He's building a building over there. There's no room for the Hasidim to live. They're buying every single property they can, and they're building buildings and buildings and buildings because nobody wants to leave. It's very convenient to live there. You have 50 schools. You have 24-hour supermarkets. Your whole life is convenient. You don't even need a car in Borough Park. It's like little Israel. You can walk everywhere. Everything is very convenient. Just like Bnei Brak, yeah. You don't need a car. You don't need anything. It's not like here. You need a car to go to stores. You need to, right? He says over here, Shut Yabi Omer. Right? He brings that Rav Avadia writes. He brings the Shut Hareim, the house that was served Avodah Zarah in there. Even if there's Avodah Zarah Bekeva, like they had minyanim there all the time for Avodah Zarah. He says, Lafi Adin, Lafi Halacha, you're allowed to pray there. That's the way Rav Avadia brings the Re'im. And then he says that the Magen Avraham says, right, anytime there's, even though we have a rule that anytime something was used for Avodah Zarah, you're not allowed to use for a mitzvah. For example, if you have candles that were lit in front of Avodah Zarah and then you want to buy these candles and light it for Shabbat, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to use anything that was used for Avodah Zarah for a mitzvah afterwards. Efshar shebet dino bait dino shonen shelo avdu bo et bait atzmo. It could be, he says that the house and praying in a house like a church is a little bit different because they didn't serve the house itself. It's not like the house is Avodah Zarah. Inside the house is Avodah Zarah, right? And he also brings over there the Divrei Shoel U'Meishiv that writes that the Re'im matter to daven there, even though there's an Avodah Zarah there, right? Which seems very interesting. However, he says the Rav Avadia brings many Achronim afterwards that say that it's Asur. And based on that, he says that you're not allowed to take a church and turn it into a shul as well. He says the only time the Re'im allowed a church to daven in is like here and there, once in a while, right? But not to actually turn it into a shul. For example, I remember when my wife, when we should give birth over here somewhere, I don't remember which one, next to Rabbi Deret, there's a hospital like straight down the road, like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, mama, straight down, I forgot which one it was. LIU, I think. LIJ, yeah, LIJ, right? So I don't think there's a shul there. I don't think there's a shul there. I remember I wanted to go pray. I went into the room. They have different times for Muslims, for Christians. Yeah. It's one room for everybody. So I go in there and I saw like Muslims bowing down, and I saw this. I was like, but I left right from there. I went and I drove to Rav Deret shul. Because I didn't really.
It's not a shul. It's a.
So if a person will be stuck in a situation like that, you would have this debate over here whether or not you're allowed to pray there b'derech akrai, b'derech nar akrai. Mamon of Shach, I would tell you not to daven over there.
They pray over there.
I would tell you, I didn't know that. But in any event, even though Pi Halacha maybe there would be room to daven there b'shat hadacha b'diavad, don't daven there anyways. Why? Because we know that the Mukubalim, and they say that they bring a story, I forgot which Chacham was in the Gemara. It says that he wanted to return the Torah to Klal Yisrael, and he didn't want Klal Yisrael to forget the Torah. I think it was Rav Chia, right? He went and he took an animal, he shechted it, he took off the skin. After he took off the skin, first he took food, he planted it in the ground. Then I think the animal ate from there. And then I think he killed the animal, took the skin. After he took the skin, he went and he made it into Sefer Torah, and then he made the ink from scratch. And then after he wrote the whole Sefer Torah, then he took the Sefer Torah and he went and he started to teach the children Torah. So everybody asks, why go through all of this? Just buy a ready Sefer Torah and teach it to them. He says no. He says why? Because when you create something from the beginning with all the right intentions, the nature of it is going to have a different nature. It's going to have a much holier nature to it. He says the person that's going to write a Sefer Torah, maybe his intention is also to make money. So those energies are within the Sefer Torah already. Such a Sefer Torah won't have the same effect on the person that's learning it, because the energies in there are like dual effect energies, you could call it, right? And therefore, said no, the Vilna Gaon says a shul that was built l'shem shamayim from beginning to the end, l'shem shamayim. It says anybody that davens in such a shul, he will not have not one thought bother him during davening. He will have tremendous amount of kavanah during davening. Why? Because the energies of the place have a strong effect on a person, right? So you're right.
It matters where you daven.
100%. 100% matters where you daven, right? If you're davening in a place where it's like a country club, your davening is going to be like a country club davening. Right? If you daven in a place where people are serious and they want to daven and they come early and they pray word for word and they really want to come close to Hashem and they care and they try, right? There's going to be natural energies that you're also going to connect to, that you're going to feel more serious about what you're doing. The atmosphere around you or the place around you for sure has a tremendous effect on just your whole feel of where you are. Whether you feel it or not, it's just naturally how things work. There's nothing you can do about it, right? So the Igrod Moshe also writes, Rav Moshe Feinstein, which is one of the main leading poskim in America, used to be a long time ago. He says over here also, you're not allowed to turn churches into shuls. And it says it's a disgraceful thing. He says, however, if you did it, you can't say that it's usher to pray over there. You can't say that it's usher to pray over there. Right? He brings also like from a lulav. He brings a proof from a lulav. Right? That if they took a lulav, a palm tree, that was used for Avodah Zarah, and then afterwards they took it to use for lulavim, lechatchila you're not allowed to use it, but b'diavad if you used it, you used it. And therefore, lechatchila, you should not take a church and turn it into a shul. B'diavad if they did it, right? But you're not allowed to. Next. כל הצורות או פסטלים שנעשו לשם עבודת זרה אסורים בהנאן. הצורות הראשונות לא הן מותרים. Any images that were made for the purpose of avodah zarah, it's also for you to have any benefit from. Any images that were meant for beauty purposes, as jewelry and so on and so forth, you are allowed to have benefit from it. You're allowed to sell it, you're allowed to do whatever you want there, right? Yeah. He brings over here also, there was a Chacham in the Gemara, that there was an image of Avodah Zarah made, but not for Avodah Zarah, just for beauty purposes. Rama Gamliel, he used to go to the Bet HaMerchatz, to the bathhouse, in a place called Aphrodite, right? And somebody asked him, how do you take a shower over here? This bathhouse is designated for the Avodah Zarah. It's connected to the whole area of Avodah Zarah. And you're coming and taking a bath over here in the bathhouse? Rama Gamliel answered, "En omrim naaseh merchatzon Aphrodite, ela omer naaseh Aphrodite noi lemerchatz." Right? So he's saying that it's not like you made this bathhouse to be a beautiful Avodah Zarah where it's designated for Avodah Zarah. Right? You decided there was a bathhouse, and then afterwards you came along, you said, I'm going to make a nice statue to make the bathhouse nicer. So the bathhouse, you made the statue to make the bathhouse nicer. It's not like this bathhouse serves the purpose of the statue in of itself. So therefore, even though there's an image there, there's a statue there, but since it was made just as a beauty to beautify the whole bathhouse, and therefore it would be permissible to bathe over there. Meaning to say they would go to a bathhouse, and in the middle of the bathhouse is a big statue of Avodah Zarah over there. Imagine they see the chief rabbi over there taking a bath. It doesn't belong over here. This bathhouse is a bathhouse. They made the statue just to make it look prettier over here. It's nothing to do with Avodah Zarah. Nobody here bows to the statue. So there is a jewelry, as a whatever it might be, right? Therefore, it would be permissible. Tough. Lefikach, he says, this is very important to know, right? Say if you have cups and they made images of Avodah Zarah over there, right? You're allowed to drink from that cup. The cup, the images there were just made to pretty the cup. They were not made for the purpose of serving it, right? I remember one time somebody told me he bought dishes, and there's like a little cross or something on the bottom or something like that. They put like a cross somewhere in there. So lefi adin it's mutar. Should you keep it? Probably shouldn't keep it, right? But lefi adin it's mutar. It was made just for the purpose of beauty. It wasn't made for the purpose of serving.
So you're allowed to like wear shoes that have like some type of, looks like a cross.
Api halacha, yes. Yes. I wouldn't do it because people might get the wrong idea, right? But a pialacha, yeah.
You know that brand Tory Burch? It has like it's a T and a T.
Is that a cross? What is that?
It's not a cross. It's a T and a T.
What's the intention of a TNT?
It's just the branding. It's a T on top of a T.
But there's no there had no intentions behind that to make a cross.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know the.
Because I remember I had a wallet once and it had like a red thing on it, looked like a cross, red cross. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the purpose. I googled it and I saw that that was the purpose of it. Yeah. So I just took that, even though halachically was mutar, I took that piece, I just ripped that out of the wallet and threw it out.
Yeah, but like.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to. It'll make the ugly look while it look
But all the
uglier.
watches are Swiss made.
Yeah.
They don't have a
That's
cross
Swiss
on
made.
it.
It's
No, but it looks like
Vacheron
this.
Constantin. It has cross.
I can't see from
Yeah,
here.
that's a
Somebody
different brand.
told me you're not
It's like
allowed
the-
water.
This is tapestry like gold. It looks like that.
What is that? Yeah, they look like a cross. But it's a T.
Listen, al pi halachically, it's not usher. But that's exactly what something that I look like that I showed to Rabelski and he didn't like it. But he didn't like it, but halachically it's not usher. I remember one time, there's a story with the Baba Sali. This one girl, she was having nightmares that night, and she couldn't figure out what it was. So they went to the Baba Sali. The Baba Sali says she has avodah zarah in her house. Right? They look, they couldn't find anything. And they found like a newspaper or a paper somewhere that had like a picture of a church with a cross on it. And it created a certain tuma in the house that the girl had a big neshama. She was able to sense it. So api halacha, it's not asur, but it's not probably not the proper thing to do. Api halacha, you can't say it's asur. If somebody wants to wear those type of symbols, whatever it might be, you can't say it's
Yeah, like
asur.
if you have at home books and stuff like that.
You can't say it's asur, no. Right, if a person has right,
7 or 10 o'clock.
yeah, in the Tory Borch or whatever else it might be, all these things, the api halacha would not be asur. Right, so. וכל זה בידוע שלא עבד אותם מסור כלי, אבל שחל לצורה של הכלי, אז נעשה כלי בנעם. Right? But if you know that only talking about if you know all those images weren't served. But say for example, if you have a cup in your store, right, that has a cross on it for some reason, I don't know how you got to it, but you got to it. Right? Your worker has it and he left it there and you want to use it. You're allowed to use it. But if you have somebody that comes and he takes and he bows to it and he kisses it, at that moment it becomes asur. You're not allowed to use it anymore. Right? Generally, dishes, pots, these type of things, or not pots, whatever else it might be, generally they're just made to be eaten and so on. They're just made for noi. They're not made to be served. Therefore, it would not be a problem to use any of these things, right? But if you see that somebody would serve it or something like that, be asur. Same thing like we studied with the crosses earlier, right? Same thing also if there's another religion that's idol worship and they make some sort of jewelry that represents that idol worship, if it's just for beauty, it would be mutar. But if you see somebody that worships it or bows down to it, it would be asur. You're not allowed to sell it, you're not allowed to have anything to do with it. צורת שתבער אצלנו שחבים לה דינה כבוד הזרעה, בצורת תבער שנוסתנו לו כדוש כלו חלילים, ורשון ודוש ותבל, ושופסים מטרים וכאלה שם לסמוך. So it says over here, like the church, like the crosses we mentioned earlier, it says there are those that are makro, those that are mekel, right? But at the end of the day, even though we might be mekel to sell it, but if you know somebody bowed to it or anything like that or served it, you would not be able to sell it. בולים שיש בהם צורת שושת וערב מותר לזכור להשתמש בהם. What about if you have stamps that have crosses on them? Right, you bought stamps on sale, it's also okay. You're allowed to buy it, you're allowed to sell it. Again, all these things just representative things, they don't care about these things. None of these things were meant to be served on. You'll be surprised, people ask me these questions, right? Or I bought something that has a cross on it, and why can't I keep it? Can I throw it out? What do I do with it? Right, so if you had in, it's mutar, all these things that you buy and sell, there's nothing to do with it, just for beauty purposes. You can do whatever you want with it. That's what it's. Yeah.
Your son won a trophy, for example, as a cross.
Really? They have crosses on them?
Sometimes, yeah.
Take it off, break it off. I wouldn't keep it at home. Afi halacha it's mutar. I won't keep it at home, throw it out. Right?
Trophies. I would trophies.
Huh?
Chest.
Where? Chest. Does?
The king always
Why
has
do
a
I need
cross.
to
Listen, lefi halacha would be mutar. I would break it off also. I would break it off or get one without it. But lefi halacha would be mutar. Right? The truth is, the Ben Ish Chai also says that if you have an image of a cross, but the image breaks into another image, even though you could see a cross within the image, that's not a problem. It's only when you have an image of a cross standing in of itself. Right? Now, next halakha, asur letzayel o asur tzurat shudor shchinan. Right? You're not allowed to make images of the Modor Shechina, it's called. Right? When Yaakov Avinu was going up and down by the ladder, there are 4 images in Shemaim under the Kisei HaKavod, under the chair of Hashem, whatever all that means. We spoke about this yesterday, right? There's a picture of four different images, right? You're not allowed to draw all those 4 images in one place together. You can't make all those 4 images in one place together. A person, a shore, and an ox, an eagle, and a lion, right? So also you want to make images of an animal or an angel itself, you're not allowed to, right? So you want to have an angel, You have an angel. Some people have this. They make an angel in their house, right? You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to have images of angels. You're not allowed to have images of people.
Angels in the house.
In the house, not allowed. You're not allowed to make images of the sun and the moon, right? And the stars. You want to have a picture? What? Anything, image of sun, moon, because the Torah says, Lo ta'asun iti elo kesav elo chezahav, right? Shemesh, Orech, so on and so forth. And so it says you're not allowed to make images that are in Shemayim, that people might misrepresent. I remember one time, around 15, 16 years ago, I went to the Rosh Yeshiva of Panovich, to his house in Bnei Brak. The Yeshiva went, he had a picture in his house, and he had a moon, and he covered it with something. He had covered it with something. So the truth is, Lefi Adin, if it's like a flat surface type of a picture, wouldn't be so machmir to tell you it's us, you have to throw it out, whatever it might be. But if you have an embolging picture, or you know your children, Moshe Feinstein has the tshuva, your children, they like to make pictures of the sun and the moon and the stars and so on and so forth, talk them out of it, because eventually when they get older it's going to be us. You're not allowed to have images of the star or the moon, or you want to have a full 3D image of a person, or like we spoke about yesterday, dolls. Right, dolls, the fiadin, Rav Abaj is matir, but there are those that are machmir, because it would depend on this, right? If it's made in a disgraceful fashion, and it's made to like treat like garbage, which generally you find dolls all over, nobody cares about them so much, right? Then Rav Abaj was matir, but not everybody likes that. Some poskim don't like it. If you want to be machmir, there's room to be machmir, to try to take the dollar, maybe, whatever it might be, but images of people for sure are asur. That if you want to go to somebody's house and he wants to take you, he likes you, wants to make an image of you in his house, it's not allowed. Right? Not allowed to do that. Right? Yeah, you never know. Some people, every day, people come up with crazy ideas. Tomorrow he's going to say, I'm going to make a picture of my Jedushka and Babushka, and 3D image, I'm going to leave it in my house to make my parents happy. Right? People come up with all interesting ideas. Everybody wants to do something different. Right? You're not allowed to make full images of people. But you say if a goy made them, or you found them, right? Or you found them, if you had din, right? You're allowed to keep them. Tough. Even though the Shulchan Aruch is more machmir also. That if you found images of the sun, the moon, and the people, or the 4 animals, or the 3 animals in the 1 person image, we said also you're not allowed to keep. We'll do one more thing. הצורות שמדור השכינה שעשו לעשותן הוא דווקא בצורה בולטת לא צורה שוקעת וקיצור על גבי לוח מותר לעשותן וציור שמש ובדרך צורה שוקעת אסור לעשות. Right? So we said that the lion, or the eagle, the ox, and the person, to make all those 4 images at one time together is asur only if it's an image that protrudes. Right? But if it's an image that's flat, for example on a board, I want to draw it on a board, it would be permissible. But however, the sun, the moon, and the stars, even on a board or even on a place that's engraved, would be asur. So we're gonna B'ezrat Hashem, we'll try to make a differentiation tomorrow of what the difference is. But at any event, right, that would be asur to do anyway. So, for example, you want to draw a picture of the sun and the moon, it has to be exactly the sun and the moon. If you draw a smiley face or you see that it's different, it's not considered the sun or moon. But to make exact pictures of the sun and the moon would be asur.